Judy speaking. Judy's eruption during the press conference was more than just venting, it was a symptom of deeper cracks inside the Browns organization. His defense of Shedeur Sanders wasn't subtle. He made it clear, the rookie wasn't struggling because he wasn't ready, he was struggling because no one bothered to get him ready. Judy's comments suggested something worse than incompetence, a systemic neglect of development and planning. In calling that out, he didn't just speak for Sanders. He spoke for every player stuck waiting behind bad decisions and mixed messages. This incident reflects a franchise at a dangerous crossroads. Judy's candor threw a spotlight on the rift between veteran leadership and organizational strategy.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
When veterans start going public with these frustrations, it signals more than discontent. It signals erosion. Judy's outburst may have been loud, but its message was surgical. Talent is being wasted, and unless priorities shift fast, the Browns' problems won't end on the scoreboard, they'll spread through the locker room. Judy didn't raise his voice to stir drama. He raised it because no one else in that locker room was going to say what needed to be said. And the moment reporters tried to twist the story, that he was frustrated with Shedeur Sanders, he wasn't just defending a teammate. He was exposing an entire organization. This wasn't some side comment. This was a clear, targeted shot at the Cleveland Browns. And whether the front office wants to admit it or not, Judy's words hit home. For weeks, maybe months, the signs were there. Shedeur Sanders, Cleveland's rookie quarterback with all the tools, wasn't getting what he needed. No consistent reps. No development plan. No investment from the people who claimed he was a part of their future. Then the moment he doesn't light up the stat sheet, the whispers start. Is he ready? Is the locker room frustrated? Is he mad? And then Judy stepped in and blew the whole narrative apart. Because no, he's not mad. And Judy's not mad at him either. He's mad at the situation. At the leadership. At the people who've turned yet another promising quarterback into a public scapegoat to cover for their own lack of direction. Let's call it what it is. The Browns set Sanders up to fail. That's not exaggeration. That's the core of Judy's outburst. The Browns threw Sanders into live games with barely any preparation, then sat back as the media started picking him apart. They didn't build chemistry. They didn't create a safe environment to grow. They didn't even give him enough time to develop trust with his receivers. And now they're surprised when things don't look smooth? Come on. Judy saw all of this coming. And the second someone tried to drag Sanders for it, he said enough. And that moment? It changed the energy around the Browns completely. Because this isn't just about Sanders anymore. It's about the culture in Cleveland. One where rookies aren't developed, they're deployed. Where young talent isn't nurtured, it's tested. And when they don't produce instant results, they're left to carry the blame while the real problems, coaching inconsistency, misaligned leadership, poor internal communication, stay untouched. Judy didn't just vent. He forced those problems into the spotlight. And the fact that it had to come from him, a veteran receiver, not a coach, not an exec, says everything. The people paid to lead this team didn't take accountability. So Judy did it himself. He didn't throw teammates under the bus. He didn't deflect. He said what the cameras needed to hear, that Shedeur Sanders isn't the issue. The lack of reps, the lack of structure, and the lack of support, that's the issue. And he's right. Let's get this straight, chemistry doesn't appear overnight. It doesn't magically happen on Sundays. It's built through repetition. Hours and hours of practice. Off-season grind. Long talks between quarterback and receiver. Shared snaps. Missed throws that lead to better ones. And what has Sanders been given? A few practice reps. Rotational scout teamwork. And then, when it's time to play, he's expected to look like he's been running with the first team all year? Of course it doesn't look perfect. It can't. Because the work that needs to happen to make it work was never prioritized. That's not a Sanders problem. That's a Browns problem. And now they've got more than just one frustrated wideout on their hands. They've got a credibility problem. Judy's comments have become the rallying point. Not just for Sanders, but for every player in that locker room who sees what's really going on. The young guys who feel overlooked. The vets who are tired of the mismanagement. The coaches who've been caught between what the front office says and what actually happens in practice. And the fan base? They're not buying the excuses anymore. Because Judy didn't just say Sanders wasn't getting enough reps. He said the team's handling of the situation is why they're underperforming. And now fans are asking the same thing. Why wasn't Sanders given a real developmental plan? Why did it take public pressure from a teammate for anyone to acknowledge it? And here's the next shoe waiting to drop. If Sanders goes out and performs in the next game, even moderately well, this whole thing explodes. Because if he plays well, the questions become unavoidable. Why was he on the bench so long? Why didn't he get more preseason work? Why did it take a media blow-up for the coaching staff to back their own quarterback? And if he struggles? Well, that's not an out for the Browns either. Because the damage has already been done. He's underprepared. Not because he can't handle the game, but because the system never gave him the time to grow into it. There's no scenario here where Cleveland walks away clean. This is the cost of mismanaging a rookie. Of trying to skip the process and fast-track results. Of drafting a quarterback you clearly don't trust enough to prepare properly. And now, they're reaping what they sowed. Judy's explosion wasn't a PR nightmare, it was a warning shot. To the coaches, to the front office, and to every team watching this unfold, thinking they can get away with the same thing. That a big-name rookie doesn't need structure, just raw talent and a few plays in practice. That it's fine to keep a young quarterback on ice, then act surprised when he doesn't shine the first time he's under pressure. That era's done. Judy made sure of it. And now the Browns are standing in the spotlight. Every move they make from here is going to be judged under a new lens. If they support Sanders? Good. Finally. But it's late. And if they don't? If they keep him sidelined, keep making excuses, keep shifting blame? Then they'll prove exactly what Judy was saying in the first place. They're not building something. They're managing optics. And that's how you lose the locker room. Fast. Veteran players don't stick around for chaos. Young stars don't develop in dysfunction. And teams that burn through talent without accountability? They don't just lose games. They lose identity. Right now, Cleveland is on the edge. They can own this moment, adjust, and finally invest in Sanders the right way. Or they can pretend everything's fine while the foundation crumbles beneath them. Let us know what you think. Did Judy call out the truth or cross the line? Is Sanders the key to Cleveland's future, or already a casualty of its dysfunction? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like if you're watching this situation unravel in real time. Share if you've had enough of the same tired excuses. And if you want more raw, unfiltered breakdowns of the moments that shake the league, subscribe and stay tuned. Because this isn't over. Not by a long shot. And just when you think the story's starting to cool off, it gets hotter. Because Jerry Jeudy's not just a wide receiver airing grievances. He's now the center of a much larger conversation about accountability, culture, and whether or not the Cleveland Browns are actually capable of handling the kind of talent they keep drafting but never seem to develop. And let's be clear, this wasn't just about one player defending another. This was a message, loud, public, and unavoidable, to an entire organization that's gotten really comfortable avoiding hard truths. Judy didn't just defend Shedeur Sanders. He exposed the Browns. You know who says what Judy said? A guy who's seen too much. A guy who's watched this happen before, maybe with other rookies, maybe with other quarterbacks, and definitely with other teams. Someone who knows what it actually takes to build chemistry, and how quickly the narrative can shift when that process gets skipped. And for Shedeur Sanders, the narrative was already being rewritten before he even got the chance to write his own. Let's be honest, the moment things started to get rocky, the whispers weren't about the team, the system, or the coaching. No, they immediately shifted the focus onto him. The rookie. As if he somehow wasn't trying hard enough. As if his inability to read defenses after being barely given time to work with the starters was some kind of character flaw. But that's how it works when the system fails you. It flips the spotlight onto the player instead of the people pulling the strings. It turns a development issue into a drama story. And when the media started poking around looking for tension, they found Judy. Wrong move. Because Judy wasn't playing along. He wasn't about to sit there and let some half-informed reporter frame this as receiver frustrations with the quarterback. He shut it down on the spot. And the tone he used? That wasn't frustration, it was conviction. This wasn't about one play, one game, or one bad route. This was about an entire off-season of missed opportunities. An entire preseason where reps were wasted. An entire development arc that should have been carefully crafted, but was instead treated like an afterthought. You don't build franchise quarterbacks by throwing them into the deep end and hoping they swim. You build them by teaching, by repetition, by putting them in the fire with protection. Not with chaos. And certainly not with media finger-pointing. Judy knows that. The players know that. And now, everyone else knows that too. Because the minute Judy spoke out, it became impossible to keep pretending this was all about chemistry. The real story was out. The Browns didn't give Shedeur Sanders the time or resources to succeed. And now they're paying for it in the form of internal backlash and public scrutiny. Let's talk about those reps for a second. Judy mentioned them repeatedly: lack of reps, lack of timing, lack of opportunity, and if you've ever watched a rookie quarterback struggle, you know that's the heart of it. Because no matter how much talent a guy has, he needs time. Not bench time. Field time. He needs those mistakes in practice. He needs to overthrow a route in August so he can fix it in October. He needs to see the safety he didn't spot the first time, so he doesn't miss it again when the game's on the line. And if you don't give him those chances, you're not protecting him. You're setting him up. That's what Cleveland did. Whether intentional or just the result of bad leadership, they put Sanders in a position where he was bound to struggle. Then they waited. And when the struggle happened, the media did what it always does. They asked if the quarterback was the problem. And Judy? He finally said what so many players are thinking in every dysfunctional locker room in this league: stop blaming the kid for a system he didn't build. That's why this matters. Because it's not just about the Browns. It's about the template. The one teams keep repeating. Draft the guy. Talk him up. Keep him behind the veteran for a while. Then rush him in mid-season, give him a few uneven games, and when he doesn't save the franchise in 3 weeks, start talking about moving on. It happens every year. And it ruins careers. Judy's blow-up is a warning. This cycle has to stop. And if it doesn't, players will speak out sooner, louder. And they won't let the organization escape with the usual excuses. Now what's next? That's the part everyone's waiting on. Because the Browns are sitting on a ticking clock. Their hand has been forced. The entire football world is watching to see how they respond. Do they rally around Sanders and admit they've mishandled things? Do they give him the practice time, the reps, the trust he needs to grow? Or do they keep spinning? Keep hiding behind vague coach speak and development timelines, while pushing the blame onto anyone but themselves? If they do that, they'll lose more than just Judy. They'll lose the locker room. Because this isn't about one guy anymore. It's about every player on that team who's been watching the front office play favorites, manage optics, and pretend the plan is fine when everyone in the building knows it's not. The team sees it. And if Sanders gets a fair shot in the next game, if he shows flashes of why they drafted him in the first place, makes smart reads, finds Judy in stride, maybe even leads a few scoring drives, it's not just going to vindicate the rookie. It's going to validate everything Judy said. It'll turn this whole media cycle into a mirror. And the reflection? It won't be pretty. Because then the narrative won't be Judy lashes out. It'll be Judy was right. And the Browns? They'll have to answer for why it took this kind of public pressure just to get their young quarterback the support he should have had from the start. But if he struggles again, that doesn't make Judy wrong. It proves his point even more. Because reps and development aren't magic. You don't get better overnight. And if Sanders looks off, it's not because he's incapable. It's because the Browns didn't invest in him when it counted. So no matter how this next game plays out, the Browns have already lost something crucial: the illusion that their problems are just on-field issues. That curtain's been pulled back. The fans see it now. The media sees it. And worst of all, for the Browns, the players know it. So what comes next is up to them. They can shift. Support Sanders. Trust Judy's leadership instead of resenting it. Fix the development pipeline and finally take responsibility for how they handle their rookies. Or they can do what they've always done: pretend. But this time the pretending won't work. Because one of their own has already called them out. And he didn't just call them out privately, he said it to the press, on the record, and with his whole chest. And that's not going away. The Browns have a choice to make. Right now. Not at the end of the season. Not in the off-season. No. Because Jeudy just did something that doesn't happen every day in the NFL. He went completely off-script. He ditched the safe, cliché-filled answers and laid bare the kind of dysfunction that doesn't show up on stat sheets. And it wasn't to stir the pot. It was to protect a teammate who's been put in an impossible position. Shedeur Sanders hasn't failed. He's been failed. And Judy made sure everyone knew it. So what does Cleveland do now? Because the narrative has changed. The team can't go back to pretending this is about timing issues or inexperience or rookie growing pains. That excuse died the second Judy stood in front of that mic and said, "This kid hasn't been given the reps." He wasn't vague. He wasn't emotional. He was deliberate. And that kind of statement isn't just about football. It's about leadership. It's about the disconnect between what players are experiencing and what coaches and executives are willing to admit. Judy's message was clear. The people making the decisions aren't doing enough. They're not doing enough to protect their young talent. They're not doing enough to foster chemistry. And they're definitely not doing enough to own the consequences when their system fails. Because make no mistake, this isn't an isolated incident. This is part of a pattern. A franchise that has cycled through quarterback after quarterback without ever asking the harder questions about why things keep falling apart. You can change playbooks. You can change personnel. But if you don't change your approach to development, you'll just keep spinning your wheels. And that's what Jeudy was pointing out. He's not just frustrated that things aren't working. He's frustrated that no one seems to be doing anything different to fix it. So here we are. The Browns are staring down a moment of truth. Because you don't come back from this with a vague apology or a tight-lipped press conference. You come back from this by acting. You give Sanders first-team reps. You build a game plan around what he does well. You let your veteran receivers support him. You give him real time, not 2 drives and a clipboard, to grow into the quarterback you claimed he could be. Anything less is just lip service. And fans know the difference. They saw Judy's face. They heard his voice crack with the weight of what he was saying. That wasn't a PR stunt. That was a player exhausted by watching a young teammate take heat for failures he didn't create. That's a rare kind of leadership. The kind that doesn't just defend, it demands better. Better communication. Better preparation. Better execution, not just on the field but off it. And if Cleveland doesn't rise to that challenge, they're not just risking Sanders' development. They're risking the entire locker room. Because when a veteran like Jeudy speaks out and the organization ignores him, that sends a message. That says, we hear you but we don't care. And in the NFL, that kind of message travels fast. Guys stop buying in. They stop covering for each other. And before long, you've got more than just quarterback problems. You've got culture problems. So no, this wasn't just a meltdown. It was a warning shot. Fix it. Or lose the players who still believe you can. And let's not forget what's coming next. The next game, whenever Sanders gets the start, isn't going to be a typical rookie showcase. It's going to be a microscope. Every move he makes will be dissected. Every throw will be a test of whether Judy's words were a rally cry or a lost cause. If Sanders shows poise, composure, and flashes of his natural talent, the story will flip overnight. Because then it won't just be Jeudy was right. It'll be, the Browns were wrong. Wrong to sideline him. Wrong to limit his development. Wrong to act like this wasn't their fault. And if he struggles? If he looks like a rookie thrown into a broken system without a foundation to stand on? That's still not on him. That just proves Judy's point even more. Because development is not magic. It's not passive. You don't just wait and see. You build it. You invest in it. And if you don't, you can't be shocked when a player doesn't perform under the weight of impossible expectations. But here's the wild part. This could still go right. That's the hope buried underneath Judy's frustration. He knows Sanders can play. That's why he spoke up in the first place. That's why he risked criticism, fines, and media heat to defend him. Because he believes that with the right support, this rookie can turn into something special. But the window is closing. Cleveland has maybe one more shot to get this right. To lean in, not pull away. To stop protecting their process and start protecting their players. And if they don't? Then this isn't just a quarterback controversy. It's another chapter in a story Cleveland has written too many times. One where talent walks out the door because the people in charge couldn't get out of their own way. So, what's it going to be? Will the Browns finally listen, not to the media, not to the fans, but to their own locker room? Will they take the criticism, face the music, and build something real around Shedeur Sanders? Or will they deflect, delay, and do what they always do, blame the player and move on? So now, with the whole football world watching, Cleveland has no more room to hide. The narrative has shifted completely, and not in the direction the front office wanted. What started as quiet whispers about Shedeur Sanders' readiness has morphed into an unignorable spotlight on the organization's failure to develop its own rookie quarterback. And the Browns didn't lose control of the story because of a losing streak or a headline-grabbing mistake. They lost it because one of their own told the truth. Jeudy didn't just air grievances. He stood at the podium and held the Browns accountable in a way few players ever dare to. And now, the question looming over every practice, every press conference, and every play is simple. Will the Browns finally listen? Because if they don't, this entire season becomes about more than just wins and losses. It becomes about trust. Trust between the players and the coaching staff. Trust between the veterans and the young guys. Trust between the locker room and the front office. And if that trust breaks down, it won't matter who's under center. The team will already be fractured. Judy's words were a clear challenge. Do better. Support your players. build a real foundation. 3. And for Sanders, this is the beginning of a crossroads. He's not just trying to play well now, he's trying to survive an environment that hasn't exactly been built for success. The pressure on him is unreal. Every mistake will be overanalyzed, every bad throw magnified. But now, thanks to Judy, the context is different. We know what he hasn't been given. We know what's been missing behind the scenes. So any judgment on Sanders from here on out has to come with the understanding that he's operating from a deficit the organization created. And if he succeeds despite that, that won't just be impressive, it'll be damning. Because it'll show that Sanders didn't need more talent. He needed time. He needed reps. He needed a team that believed in developing him instead of expecting instant results. And once fans see what he's capable of, if he's finally given the space to show it, they'll start asking the same question Judy did. Why wasn't this the plan from the beginning? And that's the last thing the Browns leadership wants to answer. Because if they admit they rushed it, misread the situation, or failed to support a rookie quarterback properly, then they're admitting this dysfunction is bigger than just one position. It's systemic. And when your players are the ones exposing that, you don't have a locker room problem, you have a culture crisis. So yes, this moment matters. Because it's not just about whether Sanders starts next week. It's about whether this team learns anything from what Judy just forced into the open. If they do, maybe they can start building something that lasts. But if they don't, then this won't be the last time a player steps up to call them out. And next time it might not just be one voice. It might be the whole room. Let us know where you stand. Did Judy speak uncomfortable truth or cross a line? Can Sanders prove the doubters wrong if the Browns finally do right by him? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like if you're here for the unfiltered truth, and subscribe if you want to be locked in for what's shaping up to be one of the most telling stories in the NFL this season. Because this drama isn't cooling off. It's just getting started.